Hello everyone, this is Tyler here. It is October 20th and I want to discuss why knowing foreign language can make a big impact as you, a MGTOW guy. Okay, so I myself have studied foreign languages for some time. I speak Spanish fluently and I also have a running knowledge of Russian. I can also understand a fair amount of Portuguese and Italian. And my first native language, of course, is English. It's really interesting. When I lived in South America when I was 20, I realized the importance and usefulness of knowing a foreign language. I was studying Spanish at that time, and I actually became very fluent by the time I left Chile, and I still continue to study the language, and to this day, I still actually enjoy practicing Spanish. It's really useful, actually, to know a second language as a MGTOW guy. It's useful for anyone, in fact. But as a MGTOW guy, it's extremely beneficial because, firstly, most of us are choosing to live in countries outside of our native birth countries. Not all of us, but many. And if not that, probably at least traveling to some of these countries. And when you go to these countries and you can actually speak the language or you have some understanding of the language of that country, it makes a huge impact on both yourself and the people that you come into contact with. It really helps put you in a mindset that's closer to the people of the culture that you're living in, and you'll be able to connect better, understand perspective better. And also in some countries there's not a lot of people that may speak your native language. Even in countries, even English in certain countries isn't widely spoken today, so knowing the language of that country can pay off tremendously. We can see, like, in a situation of relationships, while many younger females are learning the common world languages such as English or Spanish, maybe German, it's still very useful to speak the language of the woman that you're going out with. I've read many stories of men that were going out with women and they didn't speak the same language, and later on they would actually find out that the woman was basically trying to game them or do something malicious to them, and they would tell family or friends in their native language, but the guy didn't understand the language and therefore didn't know what was being said amongst them. Sometimes the guy would be in the same room as the woman. The woman would carry on about mischievous things that she planned to do, whether it was financially or it was just personal. It was something that the guy could have understood if he spoke the language or some of the language. And in some cases, it ended up backfiring on the guy. This is a great example that you really should know the language, especially if you're getting into a more serious relationship. You should start trying to learn at least some of the language, especially if you're carrying on to a more serious relationship with a woman. You should definitely try to learn the language pretty well, the person that you're with, because this can help save you tremendously down the road. You could avoid serious problems by just simply learning the language. Now, also, MGTOW, of course, stands for men going their own way, and you'll make yourself a lot more independent and self-sustainable without needing a lot of extra help if you can actually speak the language decently, or at least understand it decently. You won't need to be seeking a lot of help from people, and you can get by easier. And this is really helpful. No matter the country you're in, you'll make your life a lot easier when you have this knowledge. There's a well-known YouTuber, he goes by Serpinza. He lived in China for like 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years, and he actually learned Chinese very fluently. And he had spoken in videos about how it really saved him down the road from situations. In his earlier years in China, he also could have prevented himself from problems that he ran into if he had known the language better. So especially if you're going into these more totalitarian and or countries that are very different from your native land, you definitely would benefit quite a bit learning the language of that place. And in some cases, to get like a long-term residency document and certainly citizenship, you actually need to know the language of that country. They will require you to take an exam or some kind of test to obtain like a citizenship of the country. I've read that in countries like Slovenia that you actually have to take an exam in Slovenian to verify that you know the language. And so in this case, you'd certainly need to know the language to obtain citizenship. Some of these countries are very nationalistic and they want all foreign people to know the language before they can get citizenship. So in some cases you'll need to know it to get these particular documents. People will also respect you more if you learn the language of that country. They may not say it, whether it's in personal or professional situations. You'll just demand more respect from people and you'll feel more confident as a person. You will feel like you can drive a situation in the way you need to. People will admire this, especially in a country where it's not very common for foreign people to know the language. You'll really be able to set yourself apart as not being seen as like a traveler, but rather like a citizen or at least a long-term resident of that country. You won't look as much like an outsider in that kind of society. And the last reason is that you'll just make your life easier and it will in the long term pay off much better than not learning the language, always having to use a translator or interpreter. By knowing it, it will be a good long-term investment for your future in a foreign country. This is a very useful skill to have, and you would be surprised the kind of situations you can apply these skills to in the future. This is my take on this topic, and give me your feedback below. Thank you.